Hi guys, today I am here to do my end of year TBR video. I say it every time I do a TBR, but I don't usually do TBR videos. I just never stick to them, but there are some books I really want to read before the end of the year. So I'm going to try and read as many of them as I can, and I wanted to share my list with you today. So I'm going to start with the actually Christmassy books, or some with a tenuous Christmas link, and then I'll talk about all the other books I want to read. There's a lot of YA, a lot of classics, a lot of non-fiction, so let's get into it. The first book I want to read before the end of the year is one that I have actually already read, but I don't really remember much of the book. I obviously know the story because you'll see when I show you it, everybody pretty much knows the story. But I did read it when I was about 13 or 14 and just don't remember a lot of it. So I wanted to reread it, and I also want to read a lot more by this author, and it is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. It is just one of those books that is so steeped in Christmas culture now. There's the film of it, there are multiple films in fact of it. It's a book that a lot of people try and read around Christmas, and I would like to read it this Christmas too. For those of you who don't know what A Christmas Carol is about, it's about a man called Ebenezer Scrooge who hates Christmas and says bar humbug a lot, and he is visited by three ghosts who try and make him feel better about Christmas by revisiting his past, his present, and looking to the future. I have the gorgeous Penguin English Library edition, and it says on the back that it was conjured up by Dickens during one of his London night walks, who wept and laughed as he composed it. So I think that's a really interesting fact. I really want to make it my aim to read more Charles Dickens because I've only ever read this, and I've watched an adaptation of Great Expectations, and I don't remember reading A Christmas Carol really, so I'm pretty much starting from scratch with Charles Dickens' books. I like to read this, I'd like to read Great Expectations, and I'd like to read A Tale of Two Cities. I've also got Bleak House to read, so I'm going to make it my aim for next year to read some Charles Dickens, so I'd like to start with A Christmas Carol this year. If I don't read it now, I'll wait until next Christmas, and then if I don't read it next Christmas, it will be the Christmas after, so I've just got to read it. And then the other Christmassy book I'd like to read before the end of the year is this non-fiction book, which is The Robin, a biography by Stephen Moss. I love nature writing, I've read so much of it this year, and I've really loved finding new authors, and I've got a few of Stephen Moss's other books, but I'd like to read this one first. I love robins. They are one of my favourite birds, and I actually used to have a robin who would eat out of the palm of my hand in my garden, which was so cool and such a memorable experience, and I just loved them so much. So I'm really looking forward to finding out more about the history of robins and more about them as birds in this book. It's also a really lovely designed book. It's got lovely illustrations. I love this and can't wait to read it. It's so beautifully designed, and I think it would make a great Christmas present too. Just to be a bit of a cheat and add some more books to my reading challenge for the year, I've decided to read some shorter books at the end of the year too. And the first one is The Gifts of Reading by Robert Macfarlane. Again, back to nature writing. I read Landmarks for the first time this year, which is by Robert Macfarlane, and I loved it. So I found this little pamphlet about the gifts of reading, and I thought it would be really great to read. The book costs £2.50, and the money goes to the Migrant Offshore Aid Station, so it's sort of really good cause too. And then another book I'd like to read that's for a good cause is The Invisible Child and the Fir Tree, which is a Moomin book by Tove Jansson. I've never read or seen anything about the Moomins before. I pretty much just know what they look like, and that is it. But I was recently at the Children's Books Conference, which was run by the bookseller, and the team who are publicising the Moomin stories were talking about their campaign, and it really inspired me to pick up the books because it's a brand that's really associated with childhood, but I never really had that, so I want to explore them in my teenage years. At least £4 from every book sale goes to Oxfam, supporting women's and girls' charities, so it is again a really good cause and something that's very close to my heart, so that is pretty much why I bought this, but I also can't wait to read it. On to classics then, and for the past 2 years I've included this book in my classics I want to read video, which I do at the start of every year, and I haven't read it yet, but I don't want to include it next year because I think I'd be a bit embarrassed, and it is Cider with Rosie by Laurie Lee. I have wanted to read it since 2015. It never happened. I feel really bad because I want to read it so much, but I've never been in the right mood. So December is going to be the time. I'm going to finally read Cider with Rosie because I think there is a tie-in Christmassy / season book as well, so I might read that afterwards if I get to this sooner rather than later. I read the blurb out in my classics I want to read in 2016 video, so as I read it out now, I'm probably going to rehear my voice in my head because I do like watching back my classics videos. So it says, Cider with Rosie puts on record the England that was traded for the petrol engine. Recalling life in a remote Cotswold village, Laurie Lee conveys the semi-peasant spirit of a 1,000-years-old tradition. I remember my mum reading the first chapter to me when I was younger, but I don't remember any more than that. And then I would love to end the year by reading another Brontë book. This is my second to last Brontë book that I've got to read, and it is Villette by Charlotte Brontë. I loved Shirley when I read it earlier in the year, and I'm so excited to read Villette. This is my gorgeous Penguin English Library edition. I love the cover of this book, and I just don't want the books to end, but I also want to have read them all, so it's this weird paradox between, should I read them all? Should I not? Should I just wait because I can't bear for them all to be over? I'm not sure, but I just know that I really want to read Villette. Whenever I think of Villette, I think of the Villette bakery in Haworth, which is where the Brontes are from, and I remember going in there when it was raining when I went to Haworth last year, and that's just what reminds me of this book. This is about a girl called Lucy Snow, and I love Charlotte's choice of name with her protagonist, obviously, and it's set in a boarding school, and also it's kind of based on when Charlotte went to Brussels and fell in love with Monsieur Heger, and I think there are some links with her own life in the book, but I'm interested to see just how they parallel. I love the Brontes, but I'm sure you already knew that. And then the final 3 books I want to read at the end of the year are a children's book and 2 YA books, and the first one is Tom's Midnight Garden by Philippa Pierce. I recently bought this because I studied this in year 6 of school, so I was about 10, and it's just stuck in my mind ever since. It's one of the reasons that I love writing so much, because we wrote some really descriptive pieces that have really stuck in my mind ever since reading the book, but we didn't read it. We listened to a stage / radio play of it, so I've never actually read the book, but I really want to revisit the story, and I think it's just going to be so wonderful to read in the evenings, so that's why I want to read Tom's Midnight Garden. I feel like there are children's books, especially if you read them at school, that really stick in your mind, and this is definitely one of them, so it's going to be so nice to revisit it, and I feel like it's going to bring back all the nostalgia. And then a YA book I want to read is Rebel of the Sands by Alwyn Hamilton. The final book in the trilogy comes out next year, so I'm going to try and read all 3 in the next 2 months, and I'm really excited to start on them. I don't read a lot of YA fantasy, but I do like it every now and again, and this one sounds really unique. It's described as an epic story of swirling desert sands, love, magic, and revolution, which are things I really, really love, and I think the setting of the desert is going to be a really interesting thing to read about. And then the final book that I want to try and squeeze in before the end of the year is a book I can't believe I haven't read yet, because I got it a few days before publication and I thought I was going to start it then, but I never did, and it is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. People have gone off John Green books a bit now. I think they were so insanely popular that people are a bit like, no, I'm not going anywhere near that, it's too hipster and cool for me, or I don't know what they're thinking. But I love John Green's books. I have no shame in admitting how much I love them, and I'm so excited to read Turtles All the Way Down. This is about a 16-year-old girl called Aza who has a mental health condition. I'm not sure exactly what it is yet, but I think it could be OCD, and I love watching John's Vlogbrothers videos. Vlogbrothers is one of my favourite YouTube channels, and every now and again I just spend all day watching all of the videos I've missed, and I love it, and I love hearing about the personal experiences of John and Hank, and I do really feel like Turtles All the Way Down is going to be his most personal book. I can't believe I haven't read a John Green book since The Fault in Our Stars, or maybe even Paper Towns Looking for Alaska. I read them all very quickly in a short space of time, so I've read them, I think now it was about 3, maybe even 4 years ago. How has it been that long? John's writing is always amazing, and I just know that I'm going to love Turtles All the Way Down. I also really love this cover, and I've got the special limited edition jacket poster inside. So there is a poster with John Green quotes when you pull it out, which I think is really cool. So those are the books that I'm hoping to read before the end of the year. I'm going to try my best. I am promising now I'm going to try and read at least half of them. If not, there will be some kind of video punishment, okay? Please hold me to that. Watch my December TBR and make sure that I read some of these books, please. Hold me accountable. So in the comments below, let me know the books that you're hoping to read before the end of the year, and we can all encourage each other and make sure we reach our goal for the year. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon. Happy reading!